Welcome to Simply Happy Conversations, a podcast that teaches you how to create a clutter-free, functional and simply happy life. I'm Narelle King, a professional organiser who supports families with practical steps to simplify their lives and create a more organised home. I'm passionate about supporting neurodivergent families and individuals like myself. Over the summer, I'm taking a break and sharing a top tip series from guest conversations in 2024. Today, I'm sharing a tip from Jacinta Dietrich and Lachlan Rutherford, the hosts of the Differently Brained podcast, which champions neurodivergent and mental health awareness and acceptance. In this top tip, they share ways to support mental health and neurodiversity. To listen to the full conversation, head to episode 127, Changing Neurodivergent and Mental Health Misconceptions, or check out the recording on YouTube. Let's jump into this top tip with the hosts from the Differently Brained podcast.
The research and the diagnostic criteria and things like that are still so narrow for what it actually looks like. And I think, I understand that stereotypes and cliches are around for a reason and things like that. But I think that that's a huge misconception and a misunderstanding of how autism and ADHD, can present and how it can look for different people, both externally and internally. I think, that's a big one. The whole laziness situation across both neurodivergence and mental health is such a huge one that, people are just lazy. It's not real. There's just so much energy going into other things that you don't see that, the expectations that you think people should be hitting, that's a big one for me. The societal expectations of just because someone thinks you should be doing something doesn't mean that you have to, and it's okay if you need to do something else.
And I suppose for you too, like growing up and like masking like myself, and then you get to this age and you're like, I don't have to. And like for me, some people will go, but you used to do that all the time. And I was like, yeah. And then I'd be so exhausted. And now I have 2 kids that I have to, cope with. I need to think about my energy. I can't just keep doing what I used to do.
Yeah, absolutely. We didn't think about it at the time, but every day after high school, I would come home and I would fall asleep. Every single day I would have an afternoon nap. I know that teenagers are meant to sleep a lot, but we went to doctors being like, she's fatigued all the time. And it 100% would have been the amount of masking and regulation I was doing by myself that, now it's just, I just can be me.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
That's so good.
That's similar in a way with in terms of energy levels and the misconception of laziness, because what I've found is that I will internalize those kinds of misconceptions and criticisms and use that as ammunition for depression, right? So I use that as sort of a means to further punch myself down into the whatever hole I find myself in. And the reason why that happens is because it's such a prevalent thing still in wider society. Yes, it's getting better, but it still lingers. It's still kind of it's still very much the default to see someone who is depressed and tell them to kind of oh, well, maybe you should do this. Maybe you should get a job and it'll fulfill you. Or maybe you should go outside and walk. It's yeah, okay, those things might and do help, but it's not really hearing that from someone else. I personally, that doesn't work for me. I need to come to that to my own, and instead have people help supporting me in the space that I'm in at the time.
It's also not always accessible. It's such a privilege to be able to look after your mental health and have accommodations for your neurodivergence and things like that. It's still something that I think isn't taken seriously, and there is still a lot of personal responsibility around a lot of these things that are social issues, basically. Absolutely, the internalized stigma it's deep in the Differently Brained team for sure, and elsewhere.
Yeah, definitely, isn't it? And it will be interesting to see what this next generation, the younger generation who have grown up, with a diagnosis from when they were really young and don't know anything different. I really look forward to seeing that compared to how I've grown up anyway, until I was 40, 46 or something, I think it was. So, yeah. So then tell us, what about at an individual level and a community level? What can we do then around changing these stigmas and the misconceptions?
Just piggybacking off what I said, like, I think it would be nice if on an individual level, if I am in a state, if I'm in a depressed state, for like an individual who might come upon me to just kind of not try to fix me in that moment, just kind of be there and understand and support, all that kind of stuff. And then from a societal level, it really kind of becomes, and I'm sure that this is going to be a similar answer for you, Jacinta. It's almost like a restructuring of how we view concepts such as laziness or disruptiveness or output, that kind of stuff. Because at the moment, it seems to be focused more on the condition, like the mental illness of a neurodivergence, which is not something that can necessarily be changed. And everything else around it, all of the systems can be changed. It's just that no one really wants to do it. So yeah.
Yes. Yes.
How you do that? Yeah, exactly. And how you do that, I don't know. There are people much smarter than me who have worked on doing exactly that. But I think maybe, like, at the very least, recognizing that those systems can change, and my headphones just disconnected.
No, they're back.
Those systems can change, and people are working to change them, and to just let it happen. Be receptive to that potentially happen. That's my answer.
And now you just reminded me of the politician from WA that you've had on twice, and I absolutely loved those episodes and everyone, I'll definitely link those in the show notes, because I think that was really great to hear, like, positive change and someone out there trying to really, make a big change. What about you, Jacinta? What do you think at an individual or a community level can we do?
At an individual level, I think it's, engaging in content and learning more and just coming to a better understanding of people around you. I think, it's a bit like previous social movements that have happened where people don't realize who is in their life, but the likelihood that you have someone in your life that is neurodivergent or struggles with their mental health, it's so likely. It's so, just because you don't think you do, just because you don't see them, that doesn't mean that, you shouldn't be learning about these things and engaging with lived experience people and speakers and things like that, because you probably most likely do. And, hearing other people's stories is never a bad thing. Growing your empathy and your understanding for someone else's journey is never a bad thing. So on an individual level, I think it's taking responsibility to continue learning about something that you maybe don't know about, because, there is more representation and it is getting there, but sometimes you still do need to go out of your way to find, autistic content or ADHD content or, wider neurodivergent and mental health content. And then on a community level, you probably notice it's a big thing for me, but representation. Like, if I hadn't have come across that stuff, I wouldn't have known, and my life could be very, very different because it was not going nicely. So I think, listening to people, at the moment, I'm not sure when this episode comes out, but at the moment we have people going through a girl's diary because she took her own life and they're trying to find the clues and things like that. And that focus in the media, I understand why it's happening, but you don't need to wait. It's too late now for that individual, and that is awful. But, like, listen to us now, because there are so many of us waving the flag, throwing up our banner, throwing up our hand, saying, we're here to help. We want to co-design with you. We want to share our lived experience. We want to do that. We're not hard to find. And it feels like there has to be a tragedy before anything is done. And then it's still not an effective solution or supports or accommodations and things like that. So I think at a community level, it really needs to be bring us in. And, on a capitalism commercial community level, it's put us in your shows, put us in your books, put us in your music, put us in everything where everyone else is, because you can't be what you can't see. And if you aren't seeing it. Instead, you're going to self-stigmatize, you're going to internalize all of that ableism and feel probably pretty awful about yourself.
Oh, I love that. I love that quote that you've just said. That's, yeah, amazing.
Thank you.
So for you, how can people, and look, you two are a very prime example. You're doing an amazing job by getting your voices out there, sharing your lived experience, but finding other people and sharing that on the podcast, which also feeds through to social media. And like this, I just wanted to get you both on to go, here's another two people who are doing an amazing job, and there's more role models. You're more role models for the younger generation, which I think we need more of, especially in schools, being, you know, a background in education. I think that's really important. Thank you so much for joining me for today's Simply Happy conversation. If you find yourself wasting precious time searching for misplaced items and wishing for a more organised life, then you need my 5-minute declutter ebook, the ultimate guide to quick and easy organising solutions for a clutter-free and happy home. Forget about spending months KonMariing your house. These fun solutions are designed to give you immediate results in under 5 minutes. Head over to Simply Happy in the resource section and download your free copy and start seeing results in minutes. I'd like to acknowledge the Wathaurong people of the Kulin Nation on which this podcast is recorded as the traditional custodians of the land. I pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging.